Okay, welcome back. A little update on the Challenger. Yes, I do have a massive Texas flag in my garage. I love that thing to death. I installed the Moto intercooler today, as well as I did the piping for the intake. So I didn't do the piping for the turbo yet, as you can see, just because the turbo isn't mounted, so that would be kind of difficult to guess on. But the intercooler piping goes right here and around, and it comes back up right there. It gets really close to the, oh, it's kind of touching the power steering lines, but that doesn't work very well anyway, so I'm not really too concerned. It's currently touching the coolant, but I'm going to lean this forward, and when I lean this forward and space it out, it doesn't touch, so we're going to be good there. Other than that, I'm going to have to do the A-pillar inside for the boost gauge and then mount the boost controller right here. Let's see. I'm going to take the exhaust off. I'm going to buff all that crap off. I'm going to wrap it. That way it actually, contains the heat inside the piping instead of inside the engine bay. Oh, and I've done the injectors, the coil packs, and the spark plugs. I changed out the oil cooler to a newer one because I think my old one was actually leaking, and I ran the oil line for the turbo. So that's all set. All I have to do now is just mount the turbo right here, do the plumbing for the compressor to the intercooler, do the exhaust side of the turbo, the hot side of the turbo, whether it's going to go through the fender or through the hood. I'm not 100% sure on that one yet. I also have to do the oil pan, have to drain the oil. I ordered oil for my car. It hasn't arrived yet, so I'm going to wait until that gets here before I do that. But I do have another oil pan upstairs that I can start fresh on with a new gasket. But yeah, so I need to do the AFR gauge for the O2 sensor because I don't have the O2 sensor right here yet. And I'm going to put it right there. Put the A-pillar in the car, wire all that up with the boost controller and the boost gauge. Set the turbo there. Might make a bracket to hold it because this is kind of not the sturdiest thing, but it gets the job done. And then put everything back together because I'm definitely not going to drive around with the front end off. It's actually upstairs right now. And then go and take it to tuning. And that'll happen on July 15th or July 17th, one of those 2 days. And see what it does. I'm only going to run 8 PSI on 93. I don't want to go crazy on the turbo set up on a Challenger when no one else has done it. I really don't feel like over boosting the car and blowing it up. This is my daily driver. Obviously, I don't drive it every day because I have a work vehicle, but I will drive this as often as I can because it's the only car that I own. So when the turbo's put on there, I'm not going to push it to the limits. I'm going to put it at about 8 PSI, and then maybe later in the year I'll put a flex fuel sensor and put E85 in the car and then go up to 10 or 12 PSI. Just so it's more reliable, less knock, less chance of what do they call it? Not combustion, but when you don't time it correctly and then the engine explodes. Yeah, less chance of that. Can't remember what the word for it is right now, though. But yeah, so that's just a little update. Got the Moto intercooler on. Got some plumbing run for the intercooler, and got all the injectors and spark plugs and coil packs and everything's on there. So we're all set. Just gonna take the rest of the night off, go to bed, wake up for work, and then do it all again after work. I'm most likely going to do the O2 bung and the AFR sensor and then mount the controller tomorrow. So we'll see what happens, and then after that I'll do the turbo. But yeah, there you go. Quick little update. Oh, and if you're curious how I'm doing all of this stuff, I don't have any fancy tooling. I have literally, this is the fanciest thing I own, is an impact, a DeWalt impact. Other than that, I'm using a portable cutoff saw that actually normally is mounted by these 3 screws, a DeWalt grinder with a collection of discs, and then I borrowed a die grinder from work, and a standard DeWalt drill. This is also a tap and die set that I use at work, and a socket set, just your 220 piece socket set by Craftsman. Nothing fancy here. Anybody can do what I'm doing. It just takes a little bit longer to do it because you don't have the pipe benders or the tube notchers. You know, I have a welder. That's actually probably the fanciest thing I have is a welder, not this. And I've taught myself how to weld. So it's a learning experience, but I'm getting it done. I've also been in contact with a couple of companies like Precision Turbo, Mishimoto, Injector Dynamics, and RIP Superchargers. They've offered to sell me a couple of things that I've needed for this project, and obviously I have them. That's what the orange coil packs are, is from RIP Superchargers, and some of the piping as well, and Mishimoto intercooler. So yeah, it's been a grind, but the mess shows proof that it's working. So that's all. Hope you'll have a good night, and I'll see you next time. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll answer them. If you can message me, that's pretty cool. I don't know if you can do that on YouTube, but if you can message me, you can do that too. Otherwise, I will respond to your comments in the comment section. I've already done it a few times. And I'll tell you whatever the heck you want to know about my car. It's not rocket science. I can release this information. So if you have questions, let me know. 8 PSI boost starting out, going up to 12 with the 85. I want to make about 450 wheel horsepower, maybe a little bit more on the 85. I don't want to push the car to the limit. It still has a factory rear end. It's like a 265 rear end. It's not very good. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Y'all have a good night, and I'll see you next time. And this was actually a shorter video than normal at 7 minutes, so thank you for tuning in.